Wednesday's episode of Days of Our Lives may not come with one giant explosion right out of the gate, but it could still end up being one of the most important chapters of the week. Because the spoilers for April 8th are not just about conflict. They are about pressure changing shape. They are about fragile relationships being tested, hidden motives getting sharper, and emotional damage becoming harder to ignore. What connects all of these stories is control. Who controls the truth? Who controls the damage? Who controls the emotional fallout before it gets worse? And in Salem, the moment several characters all try to seize control at once is usually the moment everything starts slipping further out of reach. So let's break down why Wednesday, April 8th may carry far more weight than it first appears. Wednesday's most suspenseful material may easily come from the growing face-off between Tate and Sophia, because this no longer feels like a story built on suspicion alone. It feels like a story that is starting to turn tactical. Up to this point, much of the tension around Sophia has come from what people suspect, what they fear, and what they cannot yet prove. But Tate thinking he can play her suggests he is done waiting for the truth to surface on its own. He may be trying to pressure the situation, force a reaction, and create the mistake that finally exposes her. The problem is that Sophia may be at her most dangerous right now. A character like Sophia does not necessarily fall apart the moment pressure starts building. In many cases, pressure makes that kind of character more focused, more watchful, more ruthless about self-preservation. So if Tate enters Wednesday feeling confident, the real twist may be that his confidence becomes his weakness. He may believe he is controlling the interaction, while Sophia is already reading where the trap is coming from. The fingerprint angle only sharpens it further, because now the conflict is moving towards something tangible. This is no longer just about who seems guilty. It is about whether Tate can turn suspicion into evidence. And once that line is crossed, the danger changes. If Sophia senses that proof is getting closer, she may stop thinking defensively and start thinking offensively. Because the most interesting outcome for Wednesday may not be Sophia getting caught. It may be Sophia realizing she is being hunted, and responding in a way that proves Tate has seriously underestimated how far she is willing to go to protect herself. So this may be less about Tate's plan succeeding or failing in one episode. It may be about the moment he realizes that cornering Sophia is not going to be clean, easy, or safe. Holly and Ari's material may sound gentler than the rest of Wednesday's tension, but emotionally, it could be one of the episode's most revealing threads. Because this is not really just an apology scene. It is a trust scene. Holly now has an explanation for the chaos that damaged her friendship with Ari, and that gives her a reason to hope things can be fixed. But the emotional problem here is deeper than simple misunderstanding. Ari had already reached a point where living with Holly no longer felt manageable. That tells us the fallout was not only dramatic. It was exhausting. It was cumulative. It wore down patience over time. Holly may come in thinking the truth about Sophia's pill swap changes everything. And in one sense, it does. It gives context. It may soften some judgment. It may even open the door to compassion. But context does not erase what Ari experienced while Holly was spiraling. Hurt does not disappear just because its cause becomes clearer. Ari may not be asking whether Holly has a good explanation. She may be asking whether Holly understands the actual impact of what happened. That is a much harder question. It requires more than regret. It requires self-awareness. It requires Holly to see that repairing the friendship may not be about proving she had a reason. It may be about proving she understands why the damage was real. Instead of simply reintroducing her as part of Holly's orbit, the episode has a chance to establish Ari as someone with emotional clarity and firm boundaries. Someone who may care, may listen, and may even want peace, but who is not obligated to instantly pretend nothing happened. So Wednesday's emotional question here may not be whether Holly says the right things. It may be whether Ari believes Holly is truly ready to own the full weight of what this friendship has been through. Stephanie's storyline may be one of the most emotionally precise stories on the canvas right now, and Wednesday could deepen it in a way that feels both intimate and quietly devastating. What makes this material work is that it is not playing trauma as spectacle. It is playing trauma as aftermath. Marlena offering advice about reconnecting with Alex may sound simple, but underneath that moment is a much more painful truth. Stephanie's trauma is no longer something she is carrying in private. It is now affecting the relationship that should feel safest, warmest, and most grounding in her life. That is what raises the emotional stakes here. The issue is no longer just what happened to Stephanie. It is what that experience is now doing to her ability to receive love without fear getting tangled in the middle of it. Stephanie may absolutely trust Alex. She may love him completely. And still, closeness may feel overwhelming in ways she cannot fully control. That contradiction is the heart of the story. Because trauma often does not erase love, it interferes with access to it. It distorts comfort. It turns safety into something a person wants and struggles to believe in at the same time. She may not simply be giving Stephanie reassurance. She may be helping her identify what has felt emotionally impossible to explain. Sometimes the first real step in healing is not solving the pain. It is naming it accurately. If Stephanie can finally say that the problem is not Alex, but what her fear keeps doing in moments that should feel normal, then the entire dynamic between them may begin to shift. But that honesty may come with its own cost. Because once the truth is spoken clearly, neither Stephanie nor Alex can hide behind vague discomfort anymore. They may have to face how deep the wound still is. Alex may realize this is not a passing rough patch. Stephanie may realize that wanting her marriage back is not the same as being ready to live inside it the way she once did. This may not be a breakthrough in the easy sense. It may be a breakthrough in the painful sense, the kind where clarity arrives first, and comfort comes much later. But in dramatic terms, that may make the story even stronger. Because instead of rushing Stephanie toward recovery, the episode may allow her to confront a harder truth, that what she survived is still shaping how she loves, how she trusts, and how she experiences the life she thought she had already returned to. Brady and Kristen's latest clash may technically be about Rachel, but emotionally, this story feels like it has moved far beyond one immediate disagreement. What makes Wednesday's confrontation compelling is that both of them may believe they are fighting for their daughter, while each also increasingly sees the other as part of the problem. Brady likely sees himself as trying to approach Rachel's situation with restraint, structure, and some sense of realism. Kristen, on the other hand, may view that same approach as cold, passive, or completely disconnected from the urgency of what Rachel is going through. From her perspective, Brady may not be acting fast enough, pushing hard enough, or feeling deeply enough. From Brady's perspective, Kristen may be letting emotion drive decisions that only make an unstable situation worse. And once both parents start believing the other is actively failing their child, the argument changes. At that point, they are no longer debating treatment, timing, or judgment. They are fighting over who gets to define what protecting Rachel actually means. That is a much more dangerous kind of conflict, because it turns every conversation into a struggle for moral authority. Not just who is right, but who has the greater claim to Rachel's emotional future. The Bayview issue may be the trigger, but the deeper story may be about ownership. Who Rachel leans on, who Rachel needs most, and who will be blamed if things continue to spiral. That emotional pressure can make every exchange between Brady and Kristen more personal, more accusatory, and less rational. Kristen's wider emotional state only raises the risk. If she is already plotting with Sophia and heading into another confrontation with EJ over Lexi, then she may come into this Brady conflict already running on suspicion, anger, and a need to seize control somewhere. That makes Brady the worst possible person for her to face in a moment like this, because he is unlikely to validate her instincts or follow her lead. And if Brady is already exhausted by Rachel's crisis and Kristen's volatility, he may be less patient and more blunt than usual. Not because the show is revealing something entirely new, but because it may show that this co-parenting conflict is reaching a point where neither side is really listening anymore. They are reacting, they are defending, they are escalating, and when that happens in a story centered on a vulnerable child, the emotional damage can spread fast. So Wednesday may not move Brady and Kristen toward resolution. It may do something more dramatic than that. It may confirm that Rachel's pain is pushing both of them into a fight where love is real, but trust is collapsing. What makes Wednesday's episode feel especially strong is that it does not seem built around one flashy twist. Instead, it may be doing something that often matters even more in soap storytelling, shifting multiple storylines into their next emotional phase at the same time. On paper, April 8th may look like a day of conversations, confrontations, and small emotional advances. But those are often the chapters where the real structural work happens. They are the episodes that sharpen motivations, clarify emotional damage, and quietly decide where the bigger explosions will come from later. Tate and Sophia may be moving out of the realm of suspicion and into something more strategic and dangerous. Holly and Ari may test whether truth is enough to repair a friendship that has already been worn down by emotional strain. Stephanie and Alex may edge closer to honesty, but that honesty may reveal how complicated healing really is. Brady and Kristen may stop pretending their conflict is only about decisions and expose that it is also about control, blame, and fear. And importantly, not all movement in a soap has to be explosive to matter. Sometimes the most effective shift is the one that changes how a character sees the situation they are in. The moment Tate realizes Sophia is not easy to corner. The moment Ari makes Holly work harder for trust. The moment Stephanie names what trauma is still doing to her marriage. The moment Brady and Kristen stop behaving like this is a disagreement that can still be contained. Those are not small beats. They are direction-changing beats. That is why Wednesday may end up feeling more important in retrospect than it does in the moment. It may not be the episode where everything blows up. It may be the episode that places several characters exactly where they need to be for that blow-up to become inevitable. And in a week like this, that kind of chapter can be just as powerful as any bombshell. Wednesday, April 8th may not open with a bombshell, but it could still leave a major mark on the week because of how much emotional movement it seems ready to deliver. Tate may learn that going after Sophia is far riskier than he thought. Holly may find out that truth alone cannot instantly restore trust. Stephanie may get the push she needs to speak honestly about the trauma still affecting her marriage. And Brady and Kristen may once again prove that their conflict over Rachel is only becoming more personal, more painful, and more unstable. That is why this episode matters. It may not blow everything up yet, but it may move several stories right to the edge of exactly that.